Hello again, everyone. Welcome to another edition of 7 Days to Sunday, sponsored by FanDuel, along with the Believe Network. I'm Zig Fracassi. Of course, you hear me on SiriusXM NFL Radio, Channel 88, the platform of SiriusXM sports channels. And, of course, my tag team partner, Hall of Famer from Tulsa, versatile lineman during his time with the Bills, and seems like he's on every platform with Overreaction Buffalo. He is my guy, Jerry O, Mr. Jerry Ostroski. How are you tonight, my friend?
I'm doing good, man. If I could get my pay scale to match my work effort here, we'd be all right. We're doing 2 hours of local sports radio in Tulsa every day from 10 to 2.
Right.
Doing some offensive line scouting eval stuff for a network called Draft Professors. Of course, do the overreaction stuff, and then we also do the stuff on Locked On. But Zig, I'm so happy that you're with me. I'm glad you agreed to come on and help us out. As always, you bring a lot to the table for us here at Overreaction. We appreciate you.
Well, I appreciate you and getting to know you a little bit and becoming friends with you as well. It's been a tremendous benefit for me. So, all right, let's get right to it. The score would suggest that the Bills got back on track, 4-0 against the Carolina Panthers. Career day for James Cook on the ground, 214 yards, multiple scores. Josh Allen now becomes the all-time leader in games with at least one touchdown pass and running. Jerry, ironically enough, passing Cam Newton in the place that he used to play in Carolina. So all look good on that. 7 sacks of Andy Dalton. So all of that looks good. But listening to some of the Buffalo media, and I almost get a sense from you that maybe not all is right, even despite the 31-point win.
No, and we'll talk about that in a little bit, Zig, here on the show, and just kind of wanted to highlight some of the performances. Obviously, James Cook in that offensive line was absolutely dominant. I thought that Aaron Cromer and Joe Brady put in some really good wrinkles in the running game this week. They went to a toss where they were taking advantage of the way Carolina played a compressed one receiver side, and they were able to get some big runs over there. And as soon as Carolina overplayed it, of course, James Cook and the Bills came right back with the cutback stuff.
Hey, Jerry, you want to dial, not to cut you off, but you want to dial that back maybe for some people who weren't tuned with what you were talking about there? With
Yeah. So basically what was happening was the way the Bills were taking advantage of it. They would compress on one receiver side. So usually it was I always want to say it's Shavers is who the receiver is, 6'4" guy, the big guy. They would bring him down and compress his width to more of an end of the line guy. So he was standing up. You knew he was a receiver, but he was down on the end of the line. And so the way they would play it was they were still playing inside of him with the defensive end, but they would line the linebacker up and linebacker be inside, corner be off the ball and kind of stacked with him in a position to be able to play coverage.
Got it.
Now you've got all this space with that defensive alignment and the defensive end inside of him. Now you've got angles with tight ends and other things. And the quick pitch allowed Cook to be outside immediately as opposed to the handoff. And he hit the ground running. And so a lot of those big runs early were taking advantage of that defensive alignment of Carolina. Then what happened in the game was the Bills are known for their cutback wide zone. So they'll run a really aggressive flat wide zone because the Bills, unlike some other teams, and like when I played, we would try to get what they call vertical displacement, Zig. So we're trying to take a down lineman, double team him, and move him north to a linebacker. Then one of us would come off on the back or one of us would stay on the defensive lineman. What the Bills use, and some other teams in the NFL do this very well also. I know the Atlanta Falcons was a team that did it when we played Atlanta down there and Bijan had a big day. They do what's called, lateral displacement. So they're actually getting out of their stances and running down the line of scrimmage. And a defensive lineman that's playing a specific gap, when that gap moves, he has to move with it.
Right.
So therefore, there's movement up front without, physically trying to move somebody from point A to point B. Cook is really good in this scheme because he's patient. He sees things backside. And the way the Bills employ their tight ends and do some things on the backside. They'll do what they call lock the backside, to where a lot of teams will allow that defensive end to run free. And that's where you see teams that run the zone read with their quarterbacks. He'll put the ball out, watch the defensive end on the backside. If he crashes, pull it and run. What the Bills do is they lock that backside. They block that backside end so that you can't get that chase down the line. And now you've got a solid backside cutting lane. Cook is really good at finding it. And that's usually, especially in the first 6 games of the season, that's how James Cook would kill you. But in this game, they utilized that defensive alignment and were able to get out on the pitch and do some really good things with it, and then come back to their normal stuff later when Carolina was overplaying that toss.
Yeah, because once he was able to find those holes with that scheme that you were talking about, it just seemed as though it was almost like, I don't know, watching it almost like watching a track race and knowing that some of the guys got like a legal jump start, if that somehow makes sense. And then once they were able to hit that hole, Cook was gone, right?
Right, exactly. And, one of the things you can do is you can manipulate the toss as well. So when they came out, it was a hardcore. They were tossing the ball and Cook was gone. A lot of times you can get a running back and he'll take a couple of hard steps. They'll throw that toss and give that toss motion or appearance of running toss. And on about that second step, that back puts his foot in the ground and then gets back behind his backside guard, in that B gap in the backside between the tackle and the guard. So there's a lot of ways to manipulate it, because one thing out of shotgun run anyway is you can be predictable in some of your running game because of where the back lines up. You'll see a lot of teams, if a back lines up to the offense's left, they'll automatically slant right because that back comes across on the front part of the quarterback. Some teams employ what's called a pistol formation, where the guy lines up directly behind the quarterback to not give that tell. But the problem with pistol is when your quarterback is 5 yards, your tailback's a little bit deeper behind him, it takes a little bit longer to get to the line of scrimmage. So there's different ways to manipulate the front. Bills did that very, very well this game against Carolina.
Yeah, and they were a run defense, Jerry, that was pretty much up there in terms of being able to stop the run. So that was pretty remarkable on that front.
And, the other thing is, Zig, and you watch Carolina, I mean, what's the strength of their defense? It's their inside defensive tackles. They got big old massive guys. So why force it? Right. Let's get them running and get them tired, and then eventually we'll come back inside with it, maybe run some gap scheme stuff, which they did, not only with James Cook, but also Ray Davis, because Ray's much more comfortable in a downhill running style as opposed to Cook, who likes to run that wide zone. So Bills did an excellent job manipulating the defensive front for Carolina with their formations, their motions, and the way they got the ball to James Cook. And it was obvious with a record day out of James Cook, most rushing yards in franchise history. Most would say Thurman Thomas had that record, but no, he did not. It was one Orenthal James Simpson. So
yeah, he was pretty.
He wasn't bad.
Yeah, and of course, another great back they had was Cookie Gilchrist. So when you start seeing, James Cook rarefied air with the likes of Cookie and OJ and Thurman and all that, shows you what kind of an impact he has.
There's a really good trivia question. I'll let you think about it, and you can text me later. But I believe there was a year that all 4 MVPs of all 4 major sports leagues in North America, hockey, basketball, baseball, and football, all wore the number 32.
Oh, wow. Okay. All right.
And you can think about that one.
All right.
You already said the answer. You already said one answer.
There you
I'll
go.
give you a hint.
Yeah. There you go. So my job is a quarter easier now. So thinking about that. All right. Pass game. Are we satisfied with that?
No, I mean, obviously there's issues with the passing game, and for whatever reason, and when you watch the All-22, the low-hanging fruit is either Joe Brady doesn't know how to throw the ball downfield and or the receivers are deficient. I don't truly believe that Joe Brady doesn't know how to throw the ball downfield. Might not always want to because of the push in Buffalo for the complementary football aspect of the game. And, the other part of it, Zig, is I really truly believe that this team, if you got into the crux of how things operate behind the scenes, I think they are a very, very heavy analytical football team. They use analytics at a high level. So when you look at what they do offensively, run the football, don't put the ball in harm's way. These are all, markers analytically in the game of football that lead to success. I mean, somebody's put a study out there as far as if you're good at these things, you have a X amount of percentage of being successful. One of them is YAC, yards after catch, right? This is stuff that the Bills do well. So I think there's some of that to it. But, obviously they do need some help at receiver. They don't really have a vertical stretch option on this team. Now, we talked about it last week, Zig, on the show, where I truly feel that Shakir and some of the guys that play slot can give you that vertical stretch. And there was a couple instances. Well, first, right off the bat, if you remember the first drive the Bills had, I believe they kicked a field goal. It was either the first or second drive. There was a sack where there was some confusion up front about it was on Deion Dawkins' inside. Should Deion have come down and taken the linebacker that was inside the feet of the defensive tackle, which he should have. But Josh was sacked right away. That play, Shakir got behind it and got vertical. If Josh sees him, has time, he makes a big play. And it might be 6. You're right. So there were some options there. But, yes, I mean, that's one aspect of it. The other aspect of it is obviously 17 is not comfortable for whatever reason.
That's obvious, yeah.
It's obvious that he's not comfortable. And I have some theories about it. And we can get into those in a little bit. I think some of it is, I think in the past, the Bills have been so, I don't want to say hard-headed, but they're very, very devoted to 5-man protections. When I say that, they like their back in the route. They like to get their back checked out of the backfield and get into the flat or a curl or something like that to be an option for
or
Josh
a wheel route or something.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah, the Bills run a ton of mesh. We talked about the rail route that Cook runs a lot of times. And I think whatever reason, and it kind of started with the Patriots, and it continued with Atlanta, and it continued some with Carolina. I just don't know if Josh is comfortable knowing where the pressure is going to come from. I think there's some uneasiness in him as far as, normally he knows right away where the pressure's coming. He can avoid it, make plays with his feet, and do what he does. This uneasiness of knowing where pressure comes from is giving him a lot of indecisiveness and things of that nature. The other thing I think that Josh has some problems with right now is his ability to get out of the pocket. I think New England started a trend. The trend started a little bit the previous season with Baltimore and a couple other teams really making a concerted effort to take away the right side of the field when they bring pressures to where he can't scramble out the right side. I think teams are doing that. I think he's not as smooth in his rollouts to the right and getting out and getting escapability. I think that's caused some issues. And then for whatever reason, he's not trusting these receivers and some of the stuff that's there. I mean, he's got short routes that are open that he could hit that he's not throwing to. And then you look at and I think the telltale sign, Zig, is you look at him mechanically and the way his feet are not right. His body's already open. He's trying to make arm passes. I think that kind of solidifies the fact that he's not real comfortable with what's going on.
I think they may have even brought that up. I forgot what may have actually been Sunday Night Football, even though Green Bay was playing Pittsburgh. I think maybe it was Collinsworth. Somebody brought that up about the footwork with Buffalo with Josh Allen because, when it's basically a 3-step drop, it's going to be a shorter pass, but a 5-step means it's going to be a longer ball. He looks uncertain in that aspect.
Yeah, he can, and Collinsworth's a bit of a parrot. He hears things and repeats them, but he is right in some aspects. I mean, one thing that Josh has to get probably more comfortable with, and the funny thing is when you look at the metrics, he has been much better under center than in the shotgun.
Yes.
But he is a shotgun quarterback. So I think that he is easy. He feels more at ease when he gets the ball, delivered to him in a shotgun set as opposed to under center. But the running ability of the Bills has led to a very heavy play action passing game, and that has been successful. And the metrics show that that Josh has been better under center. So there's a lot of that as well. I just really think that he's always had an answer athletically. He's always been able to get out. He always has an answer. He throws the ball so well on the run. You saw a catch by Shakir in the Atlanta game. You saw a catch this week by Moore in the Carolina game, where Josh is about a yard from the sideline and he finds a way to get a ball completed. Now they both were out of bounds, but it was bang bang close, and actually both catches were ruled completions before they were overturned with replay. So I think that's a big aspect of it and that's kind of part of my keys to the game that we get into later when we start talking about Kansas City, is him and movement, and we'll get into that in a little bit.
You're watching 7 Days to Sunday, sponsored by FanDuel. Of course, Jerry Ostroski's along. I'm Zig Fracassi. Defensively, 7 sacks of Andy Dalton, multiple turnovers, probably more of a complete effort from them. And McDermott seemed like he had a little more hand in the defense this week.
Yeah, McDermott was calling some of the plays. He was helping advise Bobby Babich and some of the stuff they were doing, which is fine. I mean, if I'm a head coach, if I'm a head coach and I'm a defensive guy and my defense has been deficient, whether he believes it's the play calling or not, this is a thing where you need to jump in. And one thing about him and Babich, they have a very good relationship. Bobby grew up around McDermott. Bobby's dad coached for McDermott. Bobby came up along with his father. Then eventually became a position coach, and now the DC. They go all the way back to Carolina. So it's not like these two are foreign to each other or don't have a very good relationship. That's why that whole interaction kind of is seamless, because Babich learned under McDermott. I mean, what he does is McDermott's stuff. But, one of the things, Zig, nobody's really talked about, and obviously we had the addition of Larry Ogunjobi and Michael Hoyt, and Hoyt was an absolute rock star. Ogunjobi was as advertised. He did what he needed to do. Unfortunately, the first quarter and a half of that game, Ed Oliver's rolling. Deion Walker got better again this week. You add Michael Hoyt, and you got this thing, the pass rush and Bosa, and then all of a sudden, you lose Ed Oliver, who's an absolute key piece of that defense. Again, which is, it's his year to be snake bit, I guess. Yeah. But, hopefully the surgery goes well. He's able to come back in the playoffs. But still, I mean, it's a huge loss. But when you look at personnel, you added 2 pieces, and then they did some things differently on the back end where Taylor Rapp did not play this week, and you saw a rotation between Jordan Hancock and Poyer. Mm-hmm. And Poyer obviously played early downs. Hancock came in on more of the passing stuff. And then at linebacker, they went ahead and started Shaq Thompson, a former Carolina Panther that knows the McDermott system. And in base defense anyway, when they had 3 linebackers on the field, it was Shaq Thompson, Dorian Williams, and Buffalo Joe Andreessen. So that's about as stout of a run set that the Bills can have right now. Bernard was dressed. He could have played if they needed him. They didn't play him. I would imagine he'll play quite a bit this week against Kansas City because of the drop Tampa 2 coverage that he plays well. But they were just different. And then you add Maxwell Hairston, and you add, we talked about Hancock a second ago. All of a sudden, between those two, you've got Michael Hoyt. All of a sudden, that defensive athletic level,
it's better.
It rose very, very large. And it was obvious. You could see it on the field. And I thought the adjustments that the Bills made were very good. Hopefully this week they continue on that trend of doing some aggressive stuff in the defensive secondary and don't just go to their drop zone schemes or their spot zone type stuff to where I think the Chiefs will just absolutely annihilate them. But it was good to see some change up. It was good to see new faces, and it definitely was productive.
I agree. I think it's time to eat, don't you?
I do, Zig. I think it is time to eat. And that's why I was late to the show today, Zig. My wife made a chicken pot pie from scratch. It was fabulous.
I bet.
And she changed it up, man. She changed it up.
Okay.
Instead of just putting like a regular crust on it or whatever, she got the Red Lobster garlic cheddar biscuits. And
oh my gosh.
Yeah, it was lights out. It was lights out, just like the wings at the Anchor Bar are lights out as well. And And we're proud to call the Anchor Bar a sponsor here of the Overreaction Buffalo Sports Network. And they've been good to us. And, man, Anchor Bar wings are amazing. They're the original Buffalo wings, started in 1964. If you don't want wings, you want beef on weck, pizza, wraps, salads, boneless wings, a.k.a. chicken nuggets. You can get all those things at the Anchor Bar. They've got multiple locations across the country, not just in Buffalo. John Fina the other night went to the soft opening of the Anchor Bar in Tucson, Arizona, said it was absolutely fabulous. The service was awesome. The food was great. And, hey, if you're in Tucson, if you're in Frisco, Texas, if you're in Buffalo, head to the Anchor Bar, man. Get some of the original Buffalo wings. Always fresh, never frozen. You can get them shipped to your house along with all the Anchor Bar sauces. And, again, we're proud to say that the Anchor Bar is a sponsor of the Overreaction Buffalo Sports Network.
Would it be surprising if Fina was like actually a greeter there at the Anchor Bar in Tucson? I wouldn't, right?
Now you're just getting to learn the aura and what is John Fina. You haven't got the full
full experience.
You haven't got the full Fina experience yet. But
okay.
Whether Fina's hired to be the greeter or not, John's going to be the greeter. John loves people. John loves to talk. So if you see John and you say hi, just get ready. You're going to have a conversation. So John's, like I said, John's been one of my best friends for a while. He's a great dude, and happy to be back together with him here on Overreaction.
And he supplied me with a Duke hoodie in commemoration of his son, so I'm happy on that. By the way, you're on the clock for UNI and Tulsa paraphernalia, so.
I know, Zig. I used to have a rule with my kids. I used to take my kids to the Tulsa Drillers games here in the city of Tulsa, which are the AA. At the time, they were the AA affiliate of the Colorado Rockies.
Right, okay.
So we got to see Tulowitzki and all the big, Brad Hopp and all the big stars of the Rockies from the early 2000s and mid-2000s play here in Tulsa.
Right.
And we had a rule. I said to him, look, I'm going to get you some stuff from the concession stand.
Okay.
I never not get you anything, but every time you ask me, it's an inning later. So the first
that's
time,
my warning? Oh.
The first time we went, it was like the 7th inning stretch, and my man's looking at me like, I said, I told you, every time you ask me, you're going to have to wait. So I got you covered, Zig. Just be patient.
Am I in the 7th inning right now? So
no, you're not in the 7th, but
okay.
You might be. We might have gotten to the 4th.
Or if you watch Game 3 of the World Series, it got to the 18th. For goodness sakes!
Hey, man, my poll question of the day today on the radio: Shohei Ohtani is the greatest professional athlete in the world at the present moment in any sport. And I said, do you believe he is? Mm-hmm. I believe he is.
Didn't Bum Phillips once have a saying, if it's not number one, roll call don't take long? It's really hard. I mean, my gosh, how he dominated Game 3. And again, of course, I know it's a football show, but what he did in that championship game against the Brewers, hitting multiple homers and striking out 10. I mean, who does that?
I want to see, and he's going to pitch more now because they blew the rotation out of the water last night. True. With everybody that had to play. So I'm sure he'll end up starting here. But, think about it. And I think the telltale sign will be this, Zig. If they've got bases loaded,
right,
and he's at the plate, do they still intentionally walk him and bring a run in just so they don't have to pitch to him? And that's even with – now think about this. They're intentionally walking this man, and right behind them is Mookie Betts and
Freddie Freeman. Yeah.
And Freddie Freeman.
Yep.
That's how much respect they got for him.
A number of years ago, Buck Showalter, he was the manager of the Diamondbacks, did that to Barry Bonds with the bases loaded. They gave up the run, and then the next batter hits into a double play. So if that's ultimate respect. We get back to football here. 7 days to Sunday, sponsored by FanDuel. Jerry, you can make an argument Patrick Mahomes might be the Shohei Ohtani of the National Football League. Number 15, the familiar enemy to the Bills this Sunday at Highmark Stadium.
Yep, Bills at home, 4:25 Eastern Time. The game of the week on CBS. I'm sure we'll get Tony Romo Chiefs
And
coming
Nance.
in.
Yep.
And Nance. Chiefs coming in they're laying a 1.5 points per FanDuel.
That's a home dog. Wow.
Also, the FanDuel over-under is 52.5. And obviously the lines move. Of course, this is a rematch of last season's AFC Championship game where Kansas City won 32-29 after the Bills beat them in the regular season. I'm totally to the point now that I could care less what happens this weekend as long as if they play in the playoffs, the Bills win. I really don't care much about this regular season. And, I know a lot of fans get wrapped up, Zig, into this number one seed thing and all that. We've lost at home. We've lost on the road. It is what it is. And, obviously Bills want to try to right the ship, especially offensively, and get Josh Allen back on track. But Kansas City comes in at 4-1. They don't come in 4-1. They come in 5-2. The Chiefs come in at 5-3 after a slow start. And if you watch that game last night, good first half. Chiefs did Chiefs stuff in the second half. Obviously, got things rolling with Mahomes and Kelsey. Kelsey now ties the record for the most touchdowns in franchise history with Priest Holmes. Had his 80th touchdown catch, has 3 touchdown runs in his career. So, it's the other thing I said. I do a cold open every radio show. And if the world ended today, Zig, I'm convinced there'd be 2 things left. Cockroaches and the Kansas City Chiefs. So,
it's amazing what they've been able to do the last 7 to 8 years with, every year in the AFC Championship game. Of course, the 5 Super Bowls, 3 wins. They were one of the few teams, Jerry, in fact, to ever go to 3 straight Super Bowls before they got drubbed last year by the Philadelphia Eagles. And let's face it, they've overcome even a lot this year. An 0-2 start. The Rice suspension, he's back now. Now your star young left tackle's dealing apparently with some personal issues in Simmons. But as long as you got 15 and 87 and the big guy Andy Reid on the sideline, and then, of course, defensively, Spags is a mastermind. And, I'm not sure they have what you would call, other than Chris Jones, maybe, Jerry, a true superstar on there, but they all play collectively well. McDuffie and my guy Drew Tranquill has overcome 3 ACL injuries to excel in his career.
Karlaftis,
Bolton. They're just steady Eddies back there, man.
Yeah, I mean, they've got great defensive secondary. They play really well against, the short pass, the long pass. They do a great job pressuring the quarterback. But, the funny thing is, Zig, when you look at this matchup, there's some areas that the Chiefs are not very good in on defense, and the Bills are good offensively that can help them. One being this, okay, and the Chiefs allow opponents to scramble more than a lot of teams in the league. Defensive scramble percentage is 9.4%, which is pretty high. We know that Allen has good running ability. That could be a possibility in an area that they can get some plays. Another area that they can get some plays is in play action. If you look at Buffalo, their play action passing game ranks 8th in the NFL. The Kansas City Chiefs, they're 32nd in the league playing against play action. Their defensive secondary is aggressive. They get downhill, and teams can make big plays on them in the play action game. Something Buffalo does good, another area they can do. Then you look at the Chiefs as well. Right now, the Bills, after this Carolina game, are the number 1 in running the ball outside of the tackles, getting outside the tackles, C and D gap, okay? Outside the hash mark, outside the numbers. The Chiefs are 18th in the NFL at defending runs outside the tackles. So there are some areas that the Chiefs are deficient that match up with the very good strengths of this Bills offense. So I think the Bills have the opportunity to make some plays and score some points. If the Chiefs have to overcompensate to take that stuff away, then does some of this passing game open up?
Yes.
One thing I do know is this, before we get into some other areas of importance, a lot of times in this game, you throw the stats out the window. It becomes a high-scoring 30-something to 30-something type game. It usually does quite a bit. Both teams answer each other back and forth offensively. Then who makes that big turnover? Who makes that big play? And we'll see where it all falls on Sunday afternoon. But I do think the Bills have some areas that they can take advantage of.
You have kind of that approach, like you just want to get on with this, even though it is a marquee matchup.
Yeah.
As a player on both sides, like Kansas City, they're saying, all right, well, we got to go there because the schedule tells us. But if we play them again, the psychology says we beat them when it counts. With the Bills, they're like, all right, we could win this game, but we still have to prove it to beat them when it really matters.
Right.
Take me through the psychology of either, and does that play into this game?
This is very much Peyton Manning and Tom Brady is what this is. I mean, it's very, very similar.
Yep.
And, the Bills and Josh Allen are waiting for their moment that they get the victory against Mahomes in a time that matters. And, I think the biggest thing right now, Zig, and the reason why I have this viewpoint of let's get on with it, same kind of viewpoint I had when we played Baltimore the first game of the season. Let's get on with it. We know what our deficiencies are. They're not anything that you can hide. I mean, when you look at these two teams, we know that Buffalo has an issue stopping the passing game of the Chiefs because of the Chiefs' athletic ability at receiver, and then also Mahomes' ability to extend plays. You look at the offensive side of the ball. You know that Josh Allen right now is struggling. You know that this Bills mid-range to long-range passing game is struggling. We know that the Chiefs play well in those areas. So I think the biggest thing as a player anyway is when you come to one of these games, you think to yourself, really, this isn't an aspect where I'm worried about the Chiefs. I need to be worried about Jerry Ostroski, the guys in the locker room, and the Buffalo Bills in general. It's a Bills versus Bills type scenario. The talent's there. They can do the things they need to do, but you just got to get right in the locker room first before you worry about anybody else. And I think that's the biggest thing with this Bills team right now is they know what they can do. I mean, think about it. When you look at the Bills and you look at the struggles that they've had, Zig, okay, points per game, the Bills are still fourth in the NFL scoring 29.6 points per game. Right. The Chiefs come in at 26.8. They're seventh. You look at point differential, plus 61 for Buffalo. They're fifth. That's with the deficiencies of the defense. They're still fifth. You look at their record in close games this year. They're 1-1. The Chiefs are 0-3. They're a front-running team. Yep. They always have been. They always will be. Kelsey makes a couple big plays. Rice is flashing a grill. Kelsey's doing the head bob thing. It's what they do. It's like I said, they're inevitable. It's who they are.
That's right.
And it's so when you look at these statistics and you look at these things, this Buffalo team, you would think right now, this was if you listen to the fans, you listen to the media, you would think this is one of the worst offensive football teams or one of the worst football teams in general in the history of mankind. And like this morning when I wrote down in my notes for my show, when I put down the top 10 of right now who would draft in what positions from 1 to 10, I didn't see the Buffalo Bills.
No.
Okay? I didn't see the Buffalo Bills.
No.
So this is still a good football team with the reigning MVP at quarterback. Do they got to do some things better? Yes. But this is still a very good football team.
Do they win Sunday?
Do they win Sunday?
Yeah.
I think they have a chance.
I do too.
And what I think of when I think about this game, first and foremost is I think Kansas City will come into Buffalo with zero respect for the Bills. That's just what I think of them. How I think they roll, how I think. And if you listen to the Chiefs and some of the things they say in their press conferences, Buffalo's constantly in their head. They're always making comments like their little deal about, the everybody eats thing that they have. And they're always thinking about the Bills. And I think that coming into Buffalo with the Mafia, and I think the biggest thing, Zig, when you get into the keys of the game, this week the Bills need to start fast.
Agreed.
They need to find a way to get Allen involved quickly, whether that's a big play with his feet, whether that's a pass, whatever it may be. They got to get him involved quickly, get points on the board, and get the Mafia behind them and get that crowd loud, because that's always what happens in Kansas City. That crowd is loud there. They front run just like their team does, and it's important. So I just think that's probably right off the bat they need to start fast to get the Bills Mafia involved early and have some success to where they can build upon it.
And then defensively, obviously, a 3-and-out or a turnover too.
Right.
This way, you talk about Kansas City front runs. If Buffalo then front runs, tough for Kansas City to come back then.
Right. The first half of the game last night against the Washington Commanders was a really good blueprint of how to beat the Chiefs. Mahomes threw two interceptions in 2 successive series.
Never did that, right?
He's never done that in his career. Yeah. And then you saw Mahomes go down, I think, 2 or 3 times in the first half as well with sacks. And when you look at that defense, they've got to with Michael Hoyt now playing, and damn it, it's hard without Ed Oliver inside.
Right.
I think that Dion does some things, but as far as just creating chaos right off the snap, Ed is so good at that.
He's your best lineman. Come on.
Right, and when you watch him on film, I mean, the way he was playing the run, I mean, just absolute Pro Bowl level type stuff. And it's funny, like he finally I think he sees all of it now.
Agreed.
He really is playing well, and then he gets hurt, which is bad. But they have got to. We haven't had this aspect in this defense in quite some time, and we had flashes of it throughout the year. And now with Michael Hoyt, this is a formidable pass rush. Sure. You've got Hoyt, you've got Bosa, you've got Rousseau. One thing about Deion Walker is if he can't get to the quarterback, he eats up a lot of space in them throwing lanes in the middle with his length. Obviously, Babbage and McDermott have their pressure packages, but I just think that I want to see this front. This is the biggest game of the season for this front, this defensive line. Can they continue to get that pressure? Now, when I watched this Chiefs offensive line last night, I was not convinced that they were world beaters, especially at left tackle. At left tackle, and I think the Bills will have some opportunities to get home. So that's a big key for the defense. And the other thing is, I really want to see them continue with some of these progressions in the defensive secondary where they are a little bit more aggressive. With Maxwell Hairston be able to run with people, with Jordan Hancock being able to run with people. Let's continue some of the trends of playing cover 2 shell man under, which they did predominantly the whole game against Carolina. Mix that in with your zone concepts and try to make some big plays, because I think the opportunities are there as long as they continue with that aggressive nature that they showed this past weekend.
Continuing with 7 days to Sunday, sponsored by FanDuel, Jerry Ostroski, Zig Fracassi. Quick whirl around the AFC East. The Patriots, after a slow start in the first half last week and 5 sacks by Myles Garrett, took it to the Browns in the second half. They're 6-2. The Jets get their first win, an emotional time for them, especially with the loss of the late, great Nick Mangold, who succumbed to kidney disease at age 41. And how about Miami? Everybody had them dead to rights, and here they have their best game of the year at Atlanta last week.
I think that, big wins for all the teams in the AFC East last week. You talked about Mangold. I think the other thing you have to really look at is Justin Fields and just
how he handled things, right?
His openness in his press conference was phenomenal.
I loved it. Yeah.
I did as well. Because it's really hard. It's hard enough when the fan base is against you, and then when your owner comes out and says some of the things that he said, the crosshairs were on him, and he handled it incredibly well. Miami's still Miami. I mean, you never know what you're going to get. They obviously can play. They can play well when they're locked in. They were locked in this last week. And then, of course, New England, Drake May.
Oh, my gosh, man.
He reminds me a little bit of Dominic Raiola, who is the quarterback for the Nebraska Cornhuskers, who has the look and all the mannerisms of Patrick Mahomes. I'm starting to think Drake May might be trying to do the same thing with Josh Allen.
Except, though, Raiola wears the same number, wears the same hair, and has the same mannerisms, for goodness sakes.
Yes, he does. And Drake May's doing some of the things similar with Josh Allen in some areas. And I made a joke about it earlier. I'm not going to bring it up on the air, but I mean, hey, the kid's playing phenomenally well. And it's amazing what confidence does for you. And he's playing at a very confident level right now.
And superb coaching. Vrabel's one of the best,
Yep, exactly.
Well, my friend, are we pretty much out of time here, correct?
Yeah, we're out of time. Chiefs and Bills this weekend will be interesting. I want to see that Bills offensive line and James Cook, man, right off the start fast, run, control the line of scrimmage, set up the play action. There's areas that the Chiefs can be had, and there's strengths of the Bills. We talked about with play action, and then the Chiefs giving up a lot of scramble yardage, and we know Josh Allen can do that. So that's something to look at. It's also going to be a big week for this offensive line and how they pick up the pressure packages of Steve Spagnuolo, and are they able to keep Josh high and dry, or at least make it easy for him to see where pressures are coming from. But I would expect nothing but a heavyweight matchup. Ali Frazier, Ali Foreman, however you want to look at it. When these two teams play, a lot of good stuff happens.
Manning, Brady, Fina, Ostroski, that's how that happens, right? So,
yeah, exactly. But Zig, I appreciate you, man. That's all for us here on 7 Days to Sunday, and obviously, big game this week. We'll talk about it next week, next Wednesday, and we'll get into the next game for the Bills as well. As always, check us out on YouTube. We're on all major podcasting platforms, and when you get there, hit the like, hit the subscribe. It helps us out. Rate the show, tell a friend. We appreciate you as always. And for Zig, I'm Jerry O. This is 7 Days of Sunday. Go Bills. Much love. Go Bills. I feel the same.